You know that feeling, that little twitch in the back of your mind, wondering if your personal data is already out there, floating around on the internet somewhere?
Yeah, your email, maybe your address.
Or worse, right? Well, today, we're not just wondering. We're taking a deep dive into some of the biggest, most impactful, and frankly, most embarrassing data breaches in U.S. history.
That's right. And look, these aren't just small oopsies, someone leaving a password on a sticky note. We're talking about massive, often systemic failures in data protection.
Failures that have really changed things.
Absolutely. They've utterly transformed how we think about our digital lives. So our mission in this deep dive is to help you understand the sheer scale, the how they happened, and most importantly, the so what for you.
What it actually means.
Exactly. What does it truly mean when your sensitive info gets out there? And what can we learn from these, well, colossal mistakes?
We've got a stack of sources detailing these events, and we're going to unpack the most important nuggets of knowledge. Get ready for some surprising facts, maybe some unsettling ones too.
Definitely some crucial insights into what happens when sensitive information falls into the wrong hands.
It's going to be an eye-opener. Okay, let's start with the sheer numbers, because some of these breaches, the number of users affected is just astronomical, truly mind-boggling.
Yeah, the scale is hard to grasp sometimes.
First up, the really big one, Yahoo, from, 2013 to 2016.
That's the one.
This was the, oh God, everyone got hacked, disaster. Initially, they said 1 billion accounts.
Right, but then Verizon bought them and the real number came out. Over 3 billion user accounts exposed. 3 billion.
It's still the record holder, isn't it?
It is. The most people affected in a single reported series of breaches. And the data stolen was extensive. We're talking names, email addresses, phone numbers, birth dates.
Passwords, calendars, even security questions.
Yep, the whole lot. Russian hackers apparently using backdoors, stolen backups, access cookies, you name it.
But what really stands out about Yahoo, beyond just the crazy scale, is how they handled it. Or rather, how they didn't.
Exactly. Their reaction was incredibly slow. And they failed to disclose a separate 2014 incident for years. That negligence cost them
A $35 million fine, right? And lawsuits.
41 class action lawsuits. And Verizon famously knocked $350 million off its acquisition price because of it.
Wow. It just shows how delaying disclosure can backfire. Massively.
Definitely. At the cost of user safety, too.
And it's not just ancient history. Look at the Real Estate Wealth Network, December 2023. A huge leak.
Huge. 1.5 billion records. That's nearly 1.16 terabytes of data.
And the cause, was it some super complex hack?
Not even close. It was incredibly basic, non-password protected folders and system access.
You're kidding. Just open.
Pretty much. The database was just sitting there exposed to the public for who knows how long.
And the data included names, addresses, phone numbers, property history, mortgage info.
All of that. Court judgments, buyer and seller info, HOA liens, obituary information, even tax IDs.
I heard it had celebrity data too, like Kylie Jenner, Nancy Pelosi.
Notoriously, yes, their property data was in there. But think about what that means for you. That kind of detailed information.
It's a gold mine for criminals.
Absolutely. Perfect for social engineering attacks, tricking you into giving up more info, financial fraud, all sorts of cyber attacks. It's basically a blueprint for targeted scams.
Okay, so we've got sheer volume and we've got just absurdly open databases.
Right.
But sometimes the embarrassment comes from like simple oversight, right? Like River City Media.
Oh yeah, March 2017. That was a spam operation that basically, well, imploded, leaked 1.4 billion people's personal details in their own internal company documents.
And how did that happen?
Their colossal error. They failed to put a password on their backup servers while configuring them for almost 3 months.
3 months? Wow.
Yeah, it was mostly email addresses, but a lot of records also had IP addresses, full names, physical addresses. The publicity was terrible.
They got blacklisted, didn't they?
By Spamhaus, yeah. And the negative publicity basically killed the company. A simple configuration mistake, boom, company gone.
Then there's MySpace. Remember MySpace?
Blast from the past. June 2013 breach.
Over 360 million accounts, logins, names, dates of birth.
And this one goes back to a really fundamental security flaw from back in the day. Before 2013, MySpace used something called an unsalted SHA-1 hash for passwords.
Okay, break that down. What does unsalted SHA-1 mean in plain English?
It means the way they stored the digital fingerprint of your password was predictable. It made it incredibly easy for hackers to crack them using pre-computed tables, think giant dictionaries, but for passwords.
So not very secure at all.
Not by modern standards, no. Thankfully, MySpace did confirm the data was pre-2013. They invalidated the stolen passwords and told the users, but it shows how fast encryption standards change. Lagging behind is dangerous.
Okay, one more in this sheer scale category. Friend Finder Networks, November 2016.
Right, 412 million accounts, and that included 15 million deleted accounts, which is concerning.
Deleted accounts. So deleting doesn't always mean gone.
Apparently not in their case. And Friend Finder had multiple security problems. Hackers hit 6 databases. They were also using that weak, unsalted SHA-1 for passwords.
And storing user data in plaintext.
Some of it, yes. Plus, another vulnerability called local file inclusion, or LFI. It's like leaving a backdoor wide open for attackers to just pull files off the server.
And the data stolen was pretty sensitive, right? Given what Friend Finder does.
Extremely sensitive.
Yeah.
Usernames, passwords, email addresses, including government and military ones, user activity, transactions, membership details. Given the adult entertainment focus of some of their sites, this data was highly compromising.
And wasn't this the second time they got hit?
It was. They'd been hacked just the year before. A repeat offense. It really shows how even very personal, private details are just fair game. Okay, so let's pivot a bit. Those numbers were staggering. But some breaches, maybe smaller in raw numbers, were devastating because the data was so sensitive. This is where it starts to feel really personal.
Yeah, hitting close to home. Like Equifax, September 2017, the one that, well, screwed over half of America.
That's the one. Infamous.
Impacted 148 million Americans, 163 million worldwide. And the data stolen was just the worst.
Identity theft gold, as you said. Social security numbers, birth dates, addresses, driver's license numbers, some credit card numbers, everything someone needs to steal your identity.
And the cause was just infuriating. They exploited a known vulnerability.
A known Apache Struts vulnerability. Equifax failed to patch it for 76 days. 76. Even though the patch was readily available.
So they knew. For over 2 months. And just didn't fix it.
Seems so. Plus, they had other issues. Poor internal security, no server segmentation, meaning once hackers were in one part, they could move easily expired security certificates.
What kind of internal security culture lets that happen? Especially with that kind of data.
It's often a case of prioritizing other business needs over fundamental security hygiene. Unfortunately, it's not as rare as you'd hope.
And the fallout was huge, right? Slow disclosure.
Over a month later, yeah. Accusations of insider trading by executives selling stock before the announcement? It ended with a $575 million FTC settlement, and Equifax spending $1.4 billion on cleanup.
And didn't the U.S. government point fingers?
They linked it to Chinese state-sponsored hackers. The big takeaway. Negligence, even when a fix is known, can open the door to catastrophic breaches.
Okay, next up. Marriott International, September 2018. The Oops, We Lost Your Passport special.
And they really did lose passports. 500 million guests affected overall. For 327 million of them, the stolen data included names, home addresses, emails, phone numbers, passport numbers.
Passport number, serious.
Passport numbers, loyalty account info, birth dates, gender, reservation details, even credit card info for some.
How did that happen?
Hackers got into the Starwood reservation database. Remember, Marriott bought Starwood in 2016.
Right.
Well, they apparently failed to properly secure or update that old, vulnerable Starwood system, and the hackers had access potentially as far back as 2014.
4 years of access, before it was even detected.
It seems so. And those passport numbers, that's not just identity theft fodder. That raises national security concerns.
How so?
Think about state actors tracking individuals across borders, potential travel issues, even impersonation for geopolitical aims. It shows how data from, say, a hotel booking can compromise something as critical as your passport.
Chilling. Okay, Exactus, June 2018, dubbed the most complete collection of personal data.
Right. 340 million individual records exposed. And again, this wasn't a sophisticated hack.
Let me guess, left unsecured.
Exactly. The entire database was found unsecured and accessible on a public network, just sitting there.
And the data was incredibly detailed, wasn't it? Beyond just name and address.
Oh, incredibly. Full names, including kids' names, age, gender, physical and email addresses, sure. But also religious affiliations, political affiliations, smoking habits, pets, income, credit rating, education level.
Wow. It's a scary level of detail.
It really is, and that's why it matters so much to you. Criminals can use that deep profile to craft highly targeted, almost irresistible social engineering attacks and scams. They know your habits, your beliefs, your financial situation.
Okay, moving on. Deep Root Analytics, June 2017. Voter data exposed.
That's right. Data on 198 million U.S. citizens. registered voter info.
So names, addresses, emails, phone numbers, birth dates, voter IDs.
Yes, but also things like internet browsing history, inferred political affiliations, religions, ethnicities.
Browsing history linked to voter data? That's
Brett,
concerning.
deeply, it's not just about privacy anymore. It raises serious questions about manipulating voter behavior, targeted disinformation campaigns, influencing elections, essentially.
Didn't the RNC use them?
They did. The Republican National Committee cut ties after the breach was discovered, but apparently rehired them later. It shows how valuable this data is, even if exposed.
Okay, this next one feels particularly awful. Los Angeles Unified School District, LAUSD, September 2022. Targeting a school district.
It's disturbing. Over 1,000 schools, 600,000 students impacted, 500 gigabytes of data stolen in a ransomware attack by a Russian criminal group called Vice Society.
What kind of data did they get from the school district?
A huge range. Personal info, obviously names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, system info, passport details, employee social security numbers, login info, tax forms, contracts, financial reports, banking details, health information.
Health info, like vaccination status.
Including COVID-19 vaccination data, yeah. Background checks, conviction reports, and this is really troubling, student psychological assessment.
Oh my God. Psychological assessments of students.
Yes. And VPN credentials, too. LAUSD refused to pay the ransom, which is generally the recommended approach, but Vice Society retaliated by publishing the data online.
Was there any warning?
Apparently, yes. Reports suggest LAUSD had been notified of vulnerabilities beforehand, but hadn't resolved them. It's a harsh reminder that even our schools, our kids, are targets, and sometimes the warnings go unheeded.
Okay, last one for this sensitive data section. Capital One, July 2019. This one was different, right? An insider threat.
Exactly, a classic insider threat scenario. It really highlights that the danger isn't always external.
What happened there?
100 million customer account records and credit card applications dating back to 2005 were exposed. The culprit was Paige Thompson, a former Amazon Web Services employee.
A former employee. How did she get access?
She exploited a misconfiguration in Capital One's cloud firewall, apparently obtained administrator credentials, and then downloaded the data. She even posted some of it to GitHub.
Posted it publicly. What data was it?
Bank account numbers, names, addresses, credit scores, account balances, and crucially, social security numbers and Canadian social insurance numbers.
So again, the really sensitive stuff. How long did this go on?
She reportedly downloaded data over a 4-month period without being detected.
4 months undetected from an insider.
It points to a failure in implementing proper access controls and monitoring. Capital One ended up settling a class action lawsuit for $190 million. It really underscores the need for strong internal security, network segmentation, and limiting user access, especially in the cloud.
Okay, so we've seen the massive scale, the incredibly sensitive data, but let's talk about the how. It's unsettling how varied the attack methods are. It's not always some super hacker genius, is it?
No, not at all. That's what's fascinating and maybe a bit terrifying. Often it's astonishingly simple errors or overlooked details that cause these huge breaches. The how can be surprisingly mundane sometimes.
Like basic design flaws or just bad practices. First American Financial Corp, May 2019, you said that was more of a leak than a breach?
Exactly. No real hacking involved. 885 million file records leaked purely because of poor data security and faulty website design.
Faulty.
They had what's called an insecure direct object reference, or IDR, vulnerability. Basically, their records were logged sequentially, like file 1, file 2, file 3, and their website let anyone view a record just by typing the number in the web address. So if you viewed your record, number 12345, you could just change the URL to 12346 and see someone else's. No login, no verification needed.
That's unbelievable. Just change a number?
Yep, like leaving your entire filing cabinet on the street, indexed for easy browsing. It cost them a $500,000 SEC fine for violating cybersecurity laws and ignoring red flags.
Then Adobe, October 2013, they had transition troubles.
Yeah, moving from desktop software licenses to their cloud-based subscription model, the software as a service or SaaS model.
And that caused problems.
Big problems. 38 million credit card numbers, plus Adobe user IDs, passwords, full names, even product source code got exposed. The cause. Vulnerabilities opened up during that transition, likely due to IT security not keeping pace.
And wasn't there a password issue too?
A huge one. They apparently used the same password encryption key for all 38 million affected users.
The same key for everyone. That's like Security 101, don't do that.
Exactly. It's a fundamental mistake. It makes cracking the encryption much easier if the key is compromised. They ended up settling a lawsuit for $1 million with 15 states.
And then there's Facebook. Their history is just littered with incidents, isn't it?
It really is. Almost a case study in ongoing data governance challenges. April 2021, you had 530 million users exposed because of a vulnerability in their contact sync tool.
Okay.
March 2019, it came out that employees could access hundreds of millions of user accounts, including passwords for Facebook and Instagram stored in plaintext files.
Plaintext passwords still.
Apparently so in that instance. Then April 2019, data from 540 million users was found unsecured on public Amazon cloud servers. This time, it was a third-party app developer who failed to password protect the data they'd collected.
So not even Facebook directly, but an app running on their platform.
Right. And later in 2019, another 300 million users were affected by API abuse, hackers in Vietnam scraping data. It's a pattern.
What does the pattern show?
A consistent struggle, particularly with controlling how third parties access and handle user data. It highlights the complexity of securing these huge ecosystems. Even the biggest tech giants aren't immune to basic security oversights.
That leads nicely into third-party weaknesses, the whole supply chain risk idea. Home Depot, April 2014. POS malware.
Point-of-sale malware, yeah. 56 million payment card numbers and 53 million email addresses compromised.
And that came through a third party.
Very likely, cybercriminals probably got into Home Depot's network via a third-party supplier first, and then used that access to install custom malware on the checkout terminals.
So the attackers didn't hit Home Depot directly at first.
Probably not. It shows how a vulnerability in one vendor, maybe someone who handles HVAC or scheduling, can become the entry point to compromise the main target. Home Depot ended up paying $180 million in damages and made big upgrades to payment security.
And Target, November 2013, the infamous Black Friday breach. Similar story.
Very similar. 41 million credit debit card records, 70 million customer records stolen. The entry point there was traced back to login credentials stolen from a third-party HVAC vendor.
An HVAC vendor gave them access to the payment systems.
The vendor had access to Target's network for things like electronic billing and project management. The hackers used those credentials to get in, moved laterally, and installed malware on the POS systems. Target also lacked proper network segmentation and firewalls to stop that movement.
Another expensive lesson.
$202 million in losses, plus major cybersecurity upgrades. Both Target and Home Depot really drove home the critical need for vetting and managing third-party vendor security. You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Okay, let's shift to insider threats again and persistent access. JP Morgan Chase, June 2014. And an employee's identity was compromised.
Yes, hackers stole a bank employee's login credentials, and they had access inside JP Morgan's network for a whole month before being detected.
A month inside JP Morgan? What did they get?
Fortunately, the breach was apparently limited. It affected 76 million households and 7 million small businesses. But the data stolen was mostly contact information, names, emails, phone numbers. No financial fraud was reported stemming directly from it for customers.
Still pretty scary. Was it known who did it?
The FBI linked it to a Russian hacking group. After this, JP Morgan pledged to spend $250 million annually on data security, a huge investment reflecting the seriousness of the breach.
And more recently, Cash App, April 2022. That was a disgruntled former employee, right?
Exactly. Affected 8.2 million users of Cash App investing, which is separate from their main payment service.
And what did this former employee do?
Downloaded customer information over a 4-month period. Undetected.
4 months again. How does that happen?
It points clearly to a failure to implement or enforce proper access control policies, especially deactivating access for former employees promptly and thoroughly.
What kind of data was taken?
Customer names, brokerage account numbers, that's serious stock trading portfolios, and stock trading activity details. Cash App is now facing multiple class action lawsuits over it. It's another stark reminder. Insider threats are real, significant, and sometimes harder to spot.
Okay, and then we have the really advanced stuff. Infrastructure crippling attacks.
Oh my God.
Microsoft, January 2021. The Exchange server vulnerabilities.
Right, this was huge. Exploitation of 4 zero-day vulnerabilities in Microsoft Exchange email servers.
0-day meaning Microsoft didn't even know about them yet.
Exactly. No patch existed when the attack started. This allowed attackers, allegedly state-sponsored groups, to gain unauthorized access to emails and potentially take control of the servers themselves.
Who was affected?
It hit companies running their own Exchange servers on premises, locally managed systems.
Yep.
An estimated 30,000 U.S. companies, maybe 60,000 worldwide. Because they managed the servers themselves, Microsoft couldn't just push a fix from the cloud instantly.
Who was blamed?
The Biden administration and the FBI publicly accused China. Microsoft specifically named a group called Hafnium, which they identified as a Chinese state-sponsored hacker group. It was a major geopolitical cyber event.
And a more recent zero-day example, the Progress Software Movit vulnerability, June 2023.
Another big one, still unfolding in some ways, a zero-day flaw in Movit Transfer, which is a very widely used application for transferring large files securely, or supposedly securely.
How many were affected by that?
The numbers are massive. Estimates are around 94 million users, over 2,500 organizations hit. The estimated damages were already over $15 billion by early 2024.
And who got hit?
This is why it matters to you. Nearly 80% of the victims were U.S. corporations. We're talking government agencies, banks, universities, healthcare providers, critical sectors. It showed how one flaw in a popular piece of software can ripple out and compromise a huge range of vital organizations.
And perhaps the most visceral example of real-world impact, Colonial Pipeline 2021. That wasn't a data leak, right?
No, not primarily a data leak, although some data was likely stolen. The main impact was shutting down the pipeline itself, causing actual gas shortages along the U.S. East Coast.
How did they manage that?
It sounds almost unbelievable, but reports indicate the hackers gained initial access using one single stolen password for a VPN account that wasn't protected by multi-factor authentication.
One password shut down a major pipeline.
It seems that password gave them the foothold they needed to deploy ransomware, lock down the systems, and demand a $4.4 million ransom.
Did they pay?
The company did, yes, although the government later recovered some of it. But the incident proved definitively that cyber attacks aren't just about data. They can cripple critical real-world infrastructure and disrupt daily life for millions. It was a massive wake-up call.
Okay, we can't wrap this up without looking at social media and gaming. These platforms might not always handle your bank details, but they hold vast amounts of personal info, and breaches there can be uniquely damaging. Let's start with the big one. Facebook Cambridge Analytica, April 2018. The scandal that supposedly broke democracy.
Yeah, this one was different. It wasn't a hack in the traditional sense, like breaking into servers. It was more about manipulating Facebook's own platform policies.
How did it work?
A British consulting firm, Cambridge Analytica, harvested data from somewhere between 50 and 90 million Facebook users. They did it through a third-party personality quiz app.
A quiz app?
Right. The app collected data not just from the people who took the quiz, but crucially from their entire network of friends as well, thanks to Facebook's permissive API settings at the time, all without the friends' explicit consent.
And Facebook knew about this.
Evidence suggests Facebook knew this kind of data harvesting was happening as early as 2015. But they didn't take effective action until a whistleblower exposed the Cambridge Analytica operations specifically.
And why does this one matter so much? Why break democracy?
Because it proved that your personal data, your likes, your connections, your inferred personality traits could be weaponized. Cambridge Analytica used this data to build psychological profiles and target political advertising with unprecedented precision, allegedly influencing voter behavior in the 2016 U.S. election and the Brexit vote.
So it wasn't just about selling your shoes. It was about potentially changing your vote.
Exactly. It showed the power of data to manipulate public discourse and shape reality. The fallout was immense. Facebook faced a historic $5 billion FTC fine and had to overhaul its privacy practices. Cambridge Analytica filed for bankruptcy and their CEO resigned.
Okay, next. LinkedIn, April 2021. The professional network got scraped.
Massively scraped. Data from over 700 million user records was put up for sale online. That's over 93% of LinkedIn's entire user base at the time.
How did they get it? Was it a hack?
It seems it was primarily data scraping, likely exploiting LinkedIn's API, the interface apps use to talk to LinkedIn in a way that violated their terms of service. Most of the information scraped was technically public profile data.
And not everything.
Crucially, associated email addresses, which aren't always public on profiles, were included in the dataset for sale.
And why is that significant?
Exposed email addresses linked to professional profiles are perfect for targeted phishing attacks, ransomware attempts. That data can also be compiled into huge OSINT databases, open source intelligence used by recruiters, salespeople, but also potentially by spies or criminals to target high-profile individuals.
Got it. eBay, March 2014, 145 million users. Password stolen.
Yes. Hackers got into eBay's main network by stealing login credentials from just a few eBay employees. A small entry point, big consequences.
Was financial info taken?
Luckily, eBay kept financial information on a separate, presumably more secure server, so that wasn't compromised.
But the passwords were. Why does that still matter so much?
Because people reuse passwords. It's a terrible habit, but incredibly common. So if your eBay password from 2014 was password 123, and you use that anywhere else, your email, your bank, other shopping sites, those accounts were suddenly vulnerable too, just from the eBay breach. It creates a cascading risk across your entire digital life.
Right. Okay, Dove Smash, December 2018. That was part of something bigger.
It was. 162 million user records from Dubsmash, the video sharing app, were compromised. But it turned out this was just one piece of a much larger attack campaign.
How large?
The same hackers apparently stole data from 16 different websites, totaling around 617 million accounts. This included big names like Under Armour's MyFitnessPal app, the genealogy site MyHeritage, White Pages.
Wow, so they were hitting multiple targets simultaneously.
Or sequentially compiling a massive database. The data stolen typically included usernames, passwords, often hashed but potentially crackable, email addresses, sometimes location data, country info. It just shows how interconnected these things are and how one hacking group can amass data from wildly different sources.
Okay, Zynga, September 2019, the gaming company, Words with Friends, Farmville.
Yep, 218 million users across games like Words with Friends, Farmville, Draw Something were affected.
What was stolen there?
Primarily usernames and passwords. A hacker calling themselves Gnostic Players claimed responsibility, saying they'd accessed Zynga's systems.
And Zynga's response.
Reports indicated they were slow to notify users directly. This breach highlights that even seemingly low-stakes data from games, your login, your email, can be valuable for attackers. They can use it for phishing attempts, credential stuffing attacks on other sites, or scams targeting gamers. It's not just about financial data.
And finally, Plex, the media server app, August 2022, 30 million users.
Passwords were encrypted here, right?
They were encrypted, yes, but an unauthorized party still got access to a database containing emails, usernames, and those encrypted passwords,
No.
reportedly through an unpatched vulnerability.
So even if passwords are encrypted, it's still bad. Absolutely, because first, the attackers got the emails and usernames, which are useful for phishing. Second, encrypted doesn't mean uncrackable. If users had weak common passwords, 123456, password, their pet's name, those can often be brute forced or cracked using those rainbow tables we mentioned earlier, even if they were technically encrypted.
So the encryption only helps if the underlying password was strong to begin with.
Exactly. It really hammers home the point. You need strong, unique passwords for every single service. Encryption is a vital layer, but it can't magically protect a terrible password. So, okay, we've looked at dozens of these massive breaches. What are the patterns? What keeps happening over and over again?
It feels like slow responses, companies waiting too long to tell people.
Definitely. Slow responses, sometimes outright negligence. We see a consistent lack of basic security hygiene. Things like proper network segmentation, keeping sensitive parts isolated.
Right, like Target maybe could have stopped the hackers moving from the HVAC vendor to the POS systems.
Precisely. Also, the principle of least privilege, only giving employees and systems the minimum access they need to do their job. Timely patching is a huge one. Look at Equifax.
76 days.
And using unique encryption keys, unlike Adobe. It often feels like security is treated as a cost center and afterthought until disaster strikes. It's cheaper to gamble than invest, perhaps.
That feels like the brutal truth, doesn't it? I mean, reading through our sources, the warnings are stark. Like, companies don't care until it's too late. Security is expensive. Fines are cheap.
It often seems that way, comparing the fines to the company's revenues.
And this one hits hard. Your data is already out there. If you've used the internet in the last 20 years, assume you're in at least one breach.
That's probably a safe assumption for most people listening, sadly.
And the idea that no one's coming to save you. Governments move slow, hackers move fast. It puts the onus back on us, doesn't it?
It does. The financial consequences for companies, while sometimes large in headline numbers, often don't compare to the long-term devastating impact on individuals whose identities are stolen or lives are disrupted. $1 million fine might be a rounding error for a huge core, but identity theft can ruin your financial life for years.
So, faced with this, frankly, overwhelming reality, what can you, the listener, actually do? How do we fight back, or at least protect ourselves?
It can feel hopeless, but there are concrete, practical steps. First, and I cannot stress this enough, Use a password manager.
Please tell me password 123 doesn't count.
Absolutely not. A password manager creates and stores long, complex, unique passwords for every single website you use. This makes brute forcing them incredibly difficult, even if the encrypted versions are stolen.
Okay, password manager. What else?
Second, freeze your credit. Seriously, do it now with all major credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion.
Why is freezing so important?
It's your single best defense against someone.
Absolutely. And it's crucial, like you said, to remember these aren't just abstract data points. It's stolen lives. Your identity, your money, your privacy, all potentially compromised by these systemic failures.
The convenience of the digital world is amazing, but the risks are profound and often hidden until it's too late.
So here's a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. In this era where, let's face it, we're all just data now, what does this relentless reality of breaches mean for our own personal responsibility, for our trust in the services we use every day? What steps will you take next to secure your own little corner of the internet?